Zen Master Ungo. This is a story of the early 17th century. Date Masamune, a great commander in northern Japan, had a violent temper when he was young. One day, in his 18th year, when it had been snowing from the morning, Masamune was drinking sake with his subordinate at a detached palace, while viewing the snowy landscape. Heishiro, who was the servant in charge of Masamune's footwear, thought that the wooden clogs would be too cold for Masamune's bare feet. So he held the clogs in his arms to warm them up. After he had finished drinking, Masamune came out to the entrance and Heishiro put the clogs in front of him. Masamune put his foot onto the clogs and became enraged.
Heishiro, you must have been sitting on my clogs. You rude servant!
He threw the clogs at Heishiro's head. He fell. Blood sputtered from his forehead and dyed the white snow red. Masamune left without wearing his clogs. The subordinates knew that Heishiro was a very serious man and would not have been sitting on the clogs of his lord. But they were scared of being scolded and said nothing. Heishiro was left alone. He thought, "What a terrible lord he is! He cannot understand how sincerely I have served him. He even hurt me without considering the possibility of his own mistake. I want revenge on him. But how can I get revenge on him?" Heishiro went back to his parents' house, holding the blood-stained clogs. As samurai, the Date family was too big for him to overcome. Well, then, he thought, he should become a monk. Even if your social position was very low, you could become a great monk by hard training. He went to Kyoto and became a Zen Buddhist monk. After 15 years had passed, Heishiro became the best monk in the temple. At that time, the shogunate government wanted to send several monks to China to import the latest Buddhism and science. Heishiro was selected for the mission and visited China. There he trained for another 5 years. After returning to Japan, he became the best monk in the country. The emperor gave him a great temple, Ungo, in Kyoto, and called him Zen Master Ungo. The time had changed from the war-torn period to the peaceful Edo period. Date Masamune had skillfully survived the period of warring states and become a lord of Sendai domain, which was the third largest domain in Japan at that time. There was a famous temple named Zuiganji there, which during the war period had been destroyed. Masamune wanted to repair it and appoint a great chief priest to administer it. He asked his subordinates who the best monk was, and everybody answered with the same name, Zen Master Ungo. So he wrote a letter to the Zen Master Ungo to ask him to become the chief priest of the Zuiganji. If Zen Master Ungo had been the former Heishiro, who was vengeful, he would have seen this as an opportunity for revenge. The Zen Master Ungo accepted Masamune's offer after getting permission from the emperor, and headed to Sendai for the first time in 30 years. At the first memorial service in Zuiganji, Ungo invited Masamune to his tea ceremony. In the tea ceremony, it is customary for the guests to first enter the room and enjoy the view of the surroundings. Lord Masamune entered the room. There he noticed some old and shabby clothes decorating an alcove. He saw blood stains on them and was suspicious of what this ominous object might be. Before long, the Zen master silently came into the room. Masamune greeted him.
Thank you for accepting my offer to come to such a far northly place. I appreciate it.
The Zen master lowered his head to reply, and Masamune observed a deep old scar on his shaved head. He was suspicious again, and asked,
I want to ask you something. There are a pair of old wooden clocks with blood stains, and you have such a deep scar on your head. I wonder if there is some history about them you want to talk to me about.
Suddenly, tears started to flow from Ungo's eyes, and he said, It has been a long time since I saw you last. I'm glad to see you looking so well. Masamune was surprised and asked,
Have we met before?
Ungo replied, No wonder you have forgotten about me. A long time ago, I was your servant in charge of footwear. I am Heishiro.
Heishiro?
Masamune was stunned. Ungo continued. About 30 years ago, on a snowy day, I held your clocks in my arm and warmed them up for you. But you got angry about it and threw them at me. These are the clocks, and my scar was made at the time. I resented you. I thought about how I could get revenge on you. And that's why I became a monk. I trained very hard, and finally, I became spiritually enlightened. You know, when the Buddha trained himself, the Holy Spirit came and beat him to make him train hard to his limit. I was finally aware, Lord Masamune. You are my Holy Spirit, and your clocks became my treasures. Now, I'm happy from the bottom of my heart to be able to express my thanks to you directly. Thank you so much, Lord Masamune. Masamune was listening silently and suddenly broke down and said,
Zen Master Ungo, please forgive me. If possible, please make me your disciple. I want to learn the Buddha's teaching from you.
From that time, Masamune became a disciple of Ungo. He became very kind and even greater Lord.